Hello, Duke fans. Welcome in to the Duke Blue Devils Insider Podcast, your daily podcast for all things Duke Blue Devils news. Just like every day, we thank you so much for tuning into the show today to get your latest on the Duke Blue Devils. My name is Hugh Strain, your daily host, as well as beat writer at Duke Blue Devils on SI. Happy to chat with you guys today and as well as every single day. So as you guys know, Duke Blue Devils capped off their regular season on a high note, taking down number 17 North Carolina 76-61 at Cameron Indoor Stadium on Saturday night. Duke ends its regular season on an 8-game win streak, winning those games by an average margin of 23.1 points per game. Was a game the Blue Devils were in control of for really the entirety of the second half. The first half, UNC kept it, I think, a lot closer than a lot of people expected, at least a lot of fans around the sport. On Friday, UNC star freshman forward Caleb Wilson was ruled out for the remainder of the season due to undergoing season-ending surgery after enduring a broken thumb in a non-contact drill. He was previously out with a hand injury, missed 6 games. UNC won 5 of those games, but the lack of his presence was definitely felt. Cameron Boozer got whatever he wanted down low. 26 points, 15 boards, 5 assists for Boozer on 10 of 17 shooting from the field, 2 of 4 from 3, and 4 of 6 from the charity stripe. 6 of his boards were on the offensive glass. If it wasn't cemented already, Cameron Boozer further cemented his case as the National Player of the Year frontrunner and the best overall player in college basketball. Cameron Boozer ends his rookie regular season with the Blue Devils, averaging 22.7 points per game. That's 6th in the country, 10.2 rebounds per game. That's 13th in the country, 4.1 assists, and 1.5 steals a game on 58.3% shooting from the field and 40.7% from three-point range. Leads the Blue Devils in every single major statistical category outside of blocks. But we've talked about it on shows over the past week. Check out yesterday's episode of the Duke Blue Devils Insider Podcast to check out the ACC tournament bracket that has been released. Before the UNC game, Duke had already locked in the 1 seed in the ACC tournament and the ACC outright regular season title for the 2nd season in a row. Duke gets the double bye along with Miami, Virginia, and North Carolina as the top 4 seeds in the ACC tournament. Duke will kick off its postseason on Thursday in the ACC tournament quarterfinals. It will play the winner of the 8-9 game between Florida State and California, respectively. Florida State ends the regular season with a 17-14 overall record and a 10-8 record in league play. California ends its season with a 21-10 overall record and a 9-9 record in league play. Duke played both those teams on the road, one at Florida State 91-87, one at California 71-56. Duke looks like, one of the best teams, if not the best team in college basketball, and really the team to beat as the top projected overall seed in the 2026 NCAA tournament. Duke fully controls its destiny. And like we mentioned, Duke ended the regular season on an 8-game win streak, winning those games by an average margin of 23 points. The only game across that span that wasn't a double-digit victory for the Blue Devils was the one game that came out of conference when Duke beat Michigan 68-63 at Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. Besides that, it was fairly lopsided victories for the Blue Devils. The closest margin in any of those games was a 67-54 victory over Clemson. That was a 13-point win for the Blue Devils. That was the closest game of any in that stretch. Now, Duke is dealing with some injury concerns. Patrick Ngungba, the sophomore center, and Caleb Foster, the junior guard, 2 starters for this Duke team, have both been dealing with injuries as of late. Patrick Ngungba missed the North Carolina game altogether with a foot injury, and then Caleb Foster only played 11 minutes before exiting the game with a foot injury of his own, and he came out back to the bench in the second half in a walking boot. Both are expected to miss the entirety of the ACC tournament, and the hope is they will be back for the NCAA tournament. But obviously 2 major losses for the Blue Devils, 2 starters, specifically 2 veterans on this team, 2 guys who have been in the program for over a year. And on a young team like the Blue Devils are, that is obviously so important. Duke brought in the number one overall 2025 recruiting class, but that was complemented by these veteran pieces such as Ngungba, Foster, Isaiah Evans, Darren Harris, guys like that. And also one more guy that we're going to be focusing today's show on, and that is Maliq Brown, who really ended his Duke career on a high note on senior night. So Maliq Brown is one of those guys where his contributions really will rarely show in the stat sheet. He's one of the most productive players on the defensive side of the ball in the sport. I think the most versatile and most impactful and disruptive defender in college basketball, but a guy that's never going to get too much attention from a box score standpoint, just because he'll never really fill it up. This season, he's averaging 5.0 points, 4.7 rebounds, and 1.8 assists for the Blue Devils as a senior on 60.5% shooting from the field, but really doesn't take too many shots, averaging 3.7 field goals per game. But the reason he's so crucial for this Duke team is his defense, and it won't even show up in the stat sheet, but at 6'9", Maliq Brown can switch to practically any position on the floor. He can defend quite literally anybody. He really showed that against North Carolina, which we're going to get into in a minute. But he has the most disruptive hands in college basketball. If deflections was a stat, Maliq Brown would lead it by a long shot. Began his career at Syracuse, where he was an all-ACC defensive team selection, then transferred to Duke. In 2024-25 would have been an all-ACC defensive team selection, but missed too many games due to injury. And then this season, back playing 31 games for the Blue Devils, he'll be an all-ACC defensive team selection this time around. Ranks 11th in the country at evanmia.com in defensive by Asian performance rating, which we've talked about relative to other Blue Devils and their ratings as well, because Duke is such an elite defensive team. But that metric essentially measures how valuable a player is to his team defensively when he's on the floor versus when he's not. Maliq Brown is 11th in that metric. The only Blue Devils ahead of him are Cameron Boozer and Patrick Gungba. Cameron Boozer is top 5 in the country in that metric as the best player in college basketball. But Maliq Brown put together probably his best night in a Blue Devil uniform against North Carolina in a game where it mattered most. Patrick Gungba, why his injuries are so significant and why he's so crucial to this Blue Devils team is he's the only true 5-man on this entire roster. Duke does not have a lot of center depth. It has length at every position on the floor. That's how John Shire and his staff like to build his rosters. And that's how Duke is so impactful and so dominant defensively, is because he has guys who are long and big and can switch on multiple positions on the floor. But Patrick Gungba is really the only true center on this team. And without him, things can become a major issue. We saw it the first time around when Duke faced UNC. Duke held double-digit leads in both halves against North Carolina in Chapel Hill and was really in control for the majority of the game. Then with about 6 minutes to go, just over that mark, Patrick Gungba fouls out. And UNC goes on to outscore Duke 16-6 across the remainder of the game to win 71-68 off a buzzer beater 3 from Seth Trimble. But with Patrick Gungba out against North Carolina, Maliq Brown stepped into that starting 5 role and wasn't just productive, but was absolutely fantastic. He goes for 15 points, 10 rebounds, 5 steals, a block, and 2 assists in 30 minutes of action. 5 of those rebounds on the offensive glass, on 6 of 9 shooting from the field, 1 of 3 from three-point range, and 2 of 3 from the free throw line. Was absolutely fantastic on the defensive side of the ball, specifically in the first half. Made life so difficult for the Tar Heels really to get anything going. Was so disruptive. You can see his 5 steals. Normally doesn't show up in the stat sheet that much, but he was so elite on the defensive side of the ball. And really, we saw how valuable he can be to a team in so many different ways. Offensively, he was a menace in the pick and roll, caught multiple alley-oops, was extremely impactful on that side of the ball. His 15 points are the most he's ever scored in a Blue Devil uniform, and what a better way to do it than on senior night against North Carolina in Maliq Brown's final game in a Blue Devil uniform at Cameron Indoor Stadium. Maliq Brown ends his career with Duke, never losing a game at Cameron Indoor Stadium. Duke has gone undefeated at home in each of the last 2 seasons. Pretty wild statistic, but that's how impactful of an environment Cameron Indoor Stadium is. But Maliq Brown just doesn't get enough love a lot of the time unless you're actually watching him, because his contributions will rarely show up in the stat sheet. But he is such an elite defender. I think he's the most versatile and disruptive defender in college basketball and the best all-around defender in college basketball at 6'9", because he really can guard any position on the floor and makes life so difficult. And he makes those winning plays that win games. And that's what makes him such a crucial part to this Duke team. Patrick Gungba is expected to be out for the entire ACC tournament, as we mentioned. So an opportunity for Maliq Brown to really, really step up and show off his full arsenal on both sides of the ball like he did against UNC. If it's any indicator with how heavily he was involved offensively in the pick and roll against North Carolina to end the regular season, in his first game really as a catalyst on the offensive side of the ball and a guy playing heavy minutes like that, I think it shows that we can expect Maliq Brown to really put on a show and, potentially gain some NBA attention. He's one of those prospects that I find interesting that he doesn't garner more NBA attention because of how versatile he is. Obviously, he doesn't have much of an offensive game, but he's a willing shooter and can make threes. He doesn't do it at a high clip, but he can make threes. But this ACC tournament could be a huge opportunity for Maliq Brown to boost his NBA draft status. But he has just been such a crucial part to this Duke team on both sides of the ball. And what better way to end your season off and get your best game in a Blue Devil uniform than on senior night at Cameron Indoor Stadium against the Tar Heels in a 15-point win for Duke. But that is going to do it for us here at the Duke Blue Devils Insider Podcast. Just like every day, we thank you so much for tuning into the show today. Make sure to check us out every day at si.com/college/Duke to get your latest on the Duke Blue Devils. My name is Hugh Strain, your daily host, as well as beat writer at Duke Blue Devils on SI, and I'll see you tomorrow.